Hello, everyone. Hi, Mary.
How's it going, Curtis?
Very well.
Hi, Curtis. Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Oh, boy.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Bruce Gill, Sherry Miller, Cynthia, Fred Joel, Julio Batista, my friend Nancy Preston, Sean, I don't know who that is, and then that smiling face and Ariel Miranda, Curtis, Catherine, Isidro, Tim Anderson, our good friend James. I don't want to say hi to you. I haven't spoken to you in too many days. And Natalie Spino. And Mary, where'd you go? She left. Do we have quorum, Ebenezer?
Maybe she went to get some food.
We need
Food.
to have 9.
So we have 1, 2, 3,
Remember, I don't count.
4.
Yes, no, I didn't count you.
So we're missing one more person.
No, we are 9. And 9, not including Jim or Ebenezer.
6, 7. Okay, we have 7 members of the executive present at this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7. We need 2 more.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I see that. All right.
We don't have a quorum, but I would like to just point your attention to an email I just sent out. It's a resolution that I would like to present to the EC this evening. So while we're waiting, if you have time to review, please do so. It's in your inbox.
Curtis, I had a quick question. I saw that the 2 resolves just say CB12 Manhattan.
Yeah,
Is the
I
idea
didn't add the result because I wanted input from you all on what the resolve should be.
okay.
So I left that open. We have time. We have until September 30th to give our feedback, but I just want to leave space for comments from everyone.
Okay. Just making sure. Thanks.
All right, so I think that the agenda mentions that the meeting was supposed to be started at 6 o'clock. It's already say 6:45. So I just want to be mindful and respectful of each and every one of us times. So we're gonna try and be as strict and adhere to our time more than anybody else, or more times than not. Yeah, whatever.
Can you upgrade Faye from the attendees list to the panelists list? And Domingo too.
We have quorum, Eleazar.
Okay, great. We have quorum. So Ebenezer, you can get the ball rolling on the
Yes.
recording. So just
You
give me the
can
cue.
start now.
Get started. Ebenezer, I think it says live.
It's live, it's recording. You're ready to go.
Ebenezer, it says live, right? So we're ready?
Yes, you can go.
Okay, good. So we're gonna call the meeting to order. Is look at my time, it's 6:48, a few minutes behind. Thank you, each and every one of you who's made yourself available to have this executive meeting in now Wednesday, September 16th. We're gonna try and make this meeting as seamless and without a lot of I'll say the key word, which is a lot of obstacles along the way. On my report, I was going to have Richard Oldman take a few minutes and speak about an initiative that he's trying to be part of or make us be part of. But I guess I'll wait until he comes alive and he talks to us about that initiative, which is a name change. I believe it was a change on the medal or the highest honor that a fire department gives from an individual who was known to be a racist individual, now to a new name. So he was gonna talk to us about and enlighten us more about that that I could. On my report, I'm gonna keep it short. I'm gonna make you guys and make an official invitation to the panel or the presentation that Beta NYC is going to have on Friday between 10 and 12. And the panel is going to be in reference to the noise complaints in our district, but in the city of New York. It is critical that we are educated on and how it can be criminalized and weaponized, how different community boards have higher complaint numbers than others and the reasons why. So it is critical that we understand the nature of what noise really means before we head on or move on into something that is more organizational and or institutional for that matter. So I invite, and I had the office send each and every one of you the email so that you guys can have the link and be part of this initiative that we are trying to have you guys be part of. Once that panel or that presentation takes place on Friday, then what we will do is to customize it and have the individual data be presented to us from specifically the complaints in District Community Board 12. So I think I stand corrected by Natalie, our wonderful liaison, that is going to be between 12 to 1, not 10 to 12. And I'll repeat, is 12 to 1. Thank you so much, Natalie. Unless Richard is on, that'll be the end of my report. Catherine, would you like to add anything else? If not, we're gonna move on to Ebenezer's report. Ebenezer.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. My report also going to be very brief. I just want to inform the executive committee that our new web page went live last week. Some of you had the chance to already review it. If you have not, I encourage you to review our new web page. As I mentioned, I keep reporting for the I said last year or maybe more. We were working very hard on the updating our webpage, and that was a summer project. And I want to thank Paola and Janelle, our staff, that they worked very hard in the transfer the containers, from the old website to the new website and upgrading. I also want to say thank you to our chairperson and also Jonathan Nunez, our IT person, for reviewing and make some suggestions. So it was a hard work during the summer. This work started very seriously in March when we closed and when the pandemic started working from home. And finally, the website is live. Please review it. Have it some time to see what it is. All the information that we had in the old website is there. And we have more content, and we have a feature that the page can be translated into Spanish and several languages, I think Japanese, French, etc., etc. And also our website has the mailing subscription to our mailing list is in the front and the homepage, and also is in the back. So if you haven't seen it, I strongly recommend that you please take a look to our new website. And also we are welcome to any comments and suggestions to improve and make it better. Also, I would like to report that our office has a new telephone system. It was installed a few weeks ago. Now we have an internet system. You know, our telephone is connected to the internet, and the system that we have is the Windstream company and system. Also, we installed during the summer a new projection screen in the meeting. It was a request from our chairperson, and I was able to acquire and install, with the help of a company, the new screen. Is a very wide, and also going to cover the red box that was there. And the most important is automatic. You can have a motor that bring it up and down without we have to have the manually bring it down or up. Also during the summer, we acquired some tablets to be distributed among the board members who doesn't have access to a computer or a computer. We have a few in the office. We have a few board members that we would like to distribute it. So if you need a tablet to connect to our meetings, please call me, call the office and let us know. More than happy to assign one to you. And finally, I would like to call the attention to all the board committee chairs is our statement of district needs is due October 30th. And last night we had a training. I sent the link. I hope that many of you take advantage of that training. And also we're gonna have a second training later this month. I will resend the link for the next one. And we need to work all together in the preparation of the statement of district needs. This is the end of my report. Is there any question? Okay, hearing no question.
No, there is a question. I raised my hand. I don't know who's taking the stack. Catherine, are you doing that?
Okay,
I'll take the stacks. Well, who else is on the thing, on the Q&A?
No, it's just Aussie. for now.
It's a question from the public, Cynthia Osborne. So Ozzy, what is your question?
Okay, so I sent an email a few months ago requesting the preliminary paperwork for the licensing committee meetings, and I never received that. So I'm asking now in public to receive that information. It's a public information, and everyone should have access to it.
Okay. Thank you for your request. Is there any other question?
Yeah, what's the,
Oh, sorry, raising hand. Anyone else going?
Yeah, Ariel?
Okay. Hi, Ebenezer. So I
Hi.
just wanted to follow up. Would it be possible we could get the fiscal year 2021 priority items that we ranked last year? And then also, can I also have the statement of needs sent back to me? I sent a previous email.
Yes, the statement of district need, if you want it, you can go to our website. We have it up to 2021 there. You can take it. 2020 is already there, the statement of district need, and I will send you the budget priority. Of course, I will send you that. Is there any other question?
I'm sorry, Ebenezer, I didn't hear your answer to my question.
Yes, the answer to your question that you requested, and I got your request. So we need
Okay.
to, listen, well, this is not the time and place to
Oh,
have
it is the time because you never
Hold on,
answered
wait a
my
minute.
question.
I am.
No, no, I'm sorry. I have
No,
my time. I would
no.
like,
I chair the meeting. Therefore, can you repeat the question again so that he understands if he can answer it now?
I, for a few months, a number of emails asked to receive the licensing committee preliminary paperwork and never received that. And I got all sorts of excuses.
Okay.
And
So
so
since-
this is a
so-
public info. Please, I would like to finish my sentence. This is a public information and I'm entitled to receive it just like any other person because it's public. And I would like to ask Ebenezer to stop ignoring that request.
Is that it, or you have anything else to add?
I just want to make sure that I'm getting it.
Okay, so he'll have those that communication or whatever it is that you're trying to receive by the end of the week. Does that answer your question, or do you have
No,
anything
that
else
has to
add?
be on a monthly basis.
Well, that'll be just like, we're not gonna do any special request. What's gonna happen is that
Mhm.
whatever information needs to be published, not just to you, it has to be published to everyone else across the
Sure,
board. Okay, so that answers your question, I hope.
I hope so. Let's see if it's
Okay,
going to work.
thank you. So let's move on.
Is there any other question? Hearing none, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, take it away.
Thank you so much. Liz, is Liz back yet? Or we're gonna just have her do her presentation or her report later on? So Gerard, is Gerard there? Gerard is not there.
Sorry, Elisa, can you upgrade, sorry, Jonathan, who's in the attendees?
That'll be Ebenezer. I don't have
And
host
Richard too.
responsibility. I
Okay.
would also love for those of you who have please raise the hands. Please do not continue to interject in the flow of the meeting so that we cannot hear two people talking at once. So I really appreciate that. The review of the future meetings, Ebenezer, we're gonna go over October and November's calendars. So if you will.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We sent early today the calendar, the draft of the calendar for November
Oye, se
and
está
October.
pasando.
For November. And we have to make, I'm sorry, let me go back to October. October is first. I'm sorry. I sent the draft of the calendar for October and November. And in October, we have to make a change of one of the committees because of the holiday of Columbus Day. The youth committee that is on the second Monday of the month have to be held on the first Monday of the month because the third Monday is the executive committee. So I move it back to the first Monday of the month, October 5th, Faye, please take a note of that. Do you have any problem or you have preferred another date? But I think this is the most appropriate date for the October calendar. I also reviewed the holidays. The Jewish holidays is not interfering with our meetings this year. It's going to happen on a Saturday and a Sunday in October this month. Any question, any suggestion for the October calendar before you guys approve it? Yes, Richard? You need to mute yourself, Richard.
Richard and then Faye.
Richard, you need to unmute yourself.
Can you unmute him? Because I think you have the capability of doing that.
Yes, I'm trying to do that. I'm looking for his name.
Appreciate that.
I can do that.
Okay, go ahead.
I was asking is whether we have to do a budget priorities hearing in October.
We should have a budget priority as well in October. So which day will prefer? We have available in October the 8th, the 15th, and I don't know if you want to do it after the executive committee on the 20th or 21st.
Which days of the week are those?
I'm sorry, say again.
I don't have a calendar and we don't have calendars in front of us. What days of the week are those?
Okay, the Tuesday 20th is a Tuesday. The 21st is a Wednesday. Probably Wednesday the 21st is better because the 20th is after the executive committee.
Personally, that's fine. The 20th is the one day I can't do.
Should we go for the 21st? Wednesday the 21st. It will be after the executive committee and before the general meeting.
I'm sorry, I don't want to do this, but this is just around protocol. Ebenezer, we have both Gerard and Liz on the attendee list. Liz is as Beth Am, so you can just upgrade them both.
Okay, Liz has been promoted and Gerard has been promoted to panelist. So going back to the review of the October calendar, we moved the youth committee to the first Monday of the month because we have a holiday on the second Monday, Columbus Day. Now we are discussing where we're going to place the budget consultation hearing in October, if we're going to do it on the 20th or the 21st of the month. The 20th is a Tuesday, and it's the Tuesday after the executive committee, and the 21st is a Wednesday, a day, 2 days after the executive committee in October.
And Liz has a question from.
I would say the 21st to give us more time, and we don't want to meet back to back 2 days in a row, for me at least.
Mm-hmm. Liz?
Liz has a question.
That's what I was going to say.
I agree.
Okay, so we're going to have the budget consultation public hearing on the 21st. Any other question regarding the October calendar?
Faye has a question. Faye, can you unmute
yes,
yourself?
Faye?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you. Yes, I think I sent an email in our calendar already know that we're going to have our meeting on the 13th, which is a Tuesday.
Not a problem. You and your committee prefer to have it on the 13th. I will put it on the 13th. That is not a problem.
Yeah, it's already, we already wrote a calendar for the entire year. And I sent it to you this afternoon just to make sure that we already set for the 13th, and I announced it in the meeting this Monday. Yes, I appreciate it. if you can, move it to the 13th.
Yes, more than happy to do that.
You-
Okay. Any other suggestions regarding the October calendar?
I just want to, can someone clarify for me? The board has the ability to host, I assume, 2 meetings simultaneously on the Zoom platform?
Yes, not on the Zoom, not on the Zoom. We have one on the WebEx and the other one on the Zoom when we have 2 meetings. We have 2 different platforms. But
see.
in the end, after all meetings are finished, we will be storing them on our YouTube channel.
Okay. So if you could just let me know who's going to be doing their committee on which platform, and if there's anything that I need to know if I'm going over to the other platform.
Yeah, sure. We'll let you know in advance. I will discuss that with Chanel and Paola, and we will let you know which committee going to be in which platform. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Any other suggestion for the October calendar? Okay, thank you very much. Now the November calendar. Again, we have a holiday on the second Wednesday of the month. Is Veteran Day, and that is the day assigned for the licensing committee. I placed the licensing committee on Thursday the 12th. If it is okay with Isidro and his committee, I think that viewing the entire calendar, that probably will be the best day to relocate the licensing committee on that month.
Which holiday again is this, Ebenezer?
It's Veteran Days. The office it will be closed.
So sure, let's do that. It will be Thursday will be fine.
Yes. Okay. Then on November we have the Thanksgiving Day on the 26th. The office will be closed, and traditionally the office is closed the day after Thanksgiving on the 27th, Friday the 27th. I submitted this request to the executive committee to see if there is no objection, and you approve it as we do every year to close the office the day after Thanksgiving.
That's great. Thumbs up.
Any other suggestion or comments on the November calendar?
Yeah,
Yes.
I know that Election Day is not a legal holiday, but it might be one we would choose to observe and not to schedule meetings that people need to attend before 9 o'clock that night when the polls close.
It actually is.
It's a holiday, and I'm sorry, I didn't mention, but the office is going to be closed that day. In November, we have 3 holidays, and the office is closed 4 days in that month.
Okay, but did we cover the first Tuesday meetings and how they're being scheduled?
The first Tuesday meeting has been relocated to the 10th. That was another relocation.
Okay.
I don't know if the business development is Domingo has any. I don't think Domingo is in the meeting at this time.
Yeah,
He's in the attendee section. He should be moved over.
Okay, I see him now. Let me promote him. Okay. Domingo. Domingo,
Yes.
can you hear us? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you hear the comments. Your meeting in November falls on election date and the office is closed, and I move it to the 10th, the following Tuesday, thinking that this is probably the best day to relocate it.
That works. That works.
That works? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if there is any other suggestion for the November calendar? Hearing none, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Take it away.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna circle back to Liz's report, and then we're gonna do Gerald since they just finished joining us.
Great. My report's really brief. I really enjoy, I think it's really important to have accurate minutes of our meetings, and I apologize for being behind. I'm working on the back minutes, and I will have those to the office in time to distribute to the membership for our meeting next week. I also think a vital portion of being secretary is monitoring the attendance, because I think when members know that their attendance is being monitored, it's an effective tool in ensuring that people show up. I think that's an activity that needs to be taken seriously by the board, by the executive committee, by the board leadership. I find that my efforts in this regard have been an expenditure of my time that has not been especially fruitful. So I think that my work as the chair of the Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee is very important. And for this reason, I am remaining on the board, but I am resigning as secretary. That is my report.
Wanted to Liz mention the inauguration of the soccer field here in Highbridge. That we
I will
can you
mention
please talk
that,
about? Oh,
yeah, I will mention that
okay.
my report in my
Okay, I'm sorry for being ahead. I was just so happy to be there that I kind of got ahead of myself.
wonderful, and I will talk about that in my
Okay.
my report to the Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee. But my report in my capacity, in my now former capacity as Secretary of Community Board 12 is I have resigned. I hereby resign as Secretary of Community Board 12 Manhattan. That is my report as Secretary. Pursuant to the bylaws, that means that O.C. Kaminer, who is the Assistant Secretary of the Community Board, ascends to Secretary if she is willing to do that. And if she is not, she too would then resign as the Assistant Secretary. I obviously leave that to her. That is her decision to make. But I am no longer the Secretary, and I therefore have nothing additional to report.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would like to request that Liz, can you please send us a letter or an email, to have it our records that you resign as a secretary for our files.
I will.
She will do that. I'm sure she will.
Thank you for your service, Liz.
Thank you, Curtis. I think O.C. has a question.
Yeah, I do. That is a significant thing. And if I have to fill in the secretary chair, I absolutely need help with everything, including fill me in with like what, the whole, I'm gonna need, I can't do minutes for the general meeting and also for the executive committee meeting. And I really think that we need to, can we hold a special election?
I think the bylaws allows the executive committee to select, and I could
I
be
believe
wrong.
we
Jim?
elect a new secretary. We can do that at the next general meeting, and hopefully someone will be willing to run.
No.
New assistant secretary. Thank you.
Yes, O.C. would ascend to secretary, and then we would fill the position.
Right.
Assistant secretary. For what it's worth, I'm not willing to continue to take minutes, and I am not willing to take minutes of the executive committee. I am willing to, obviously I'll share whatever files I have to the extent that the office does not have them. I'm happy to help OC if she needs help with roll calls, votes, what have you.
I do need help.
But yeah.
Well, once we have an assistant secretary, then the assistant secretary will be able to assist OC, the secretary. And we will all go out of our way to make her life as easy as possible also.
Right, but what I don't hear here is that there will be some sort of a special election or whatever.
That's exactly what we just said. There's going to be a special election at the next general meeting.
Catherine?
Yeah, also, as been our tradition, in the case, let's say that there isn't an assistant secretary or somebody put forth, also we can definitely work a plan in terms of making sure that you can get support in terms of like roll call, as folks have like volunteered the days of to support each other. So I think, over the course, and particularly since we're staying virtual, we can kind of work on that. So I'd be happy to offer support there.
All right.
Right, and let's make sure we have this election on the next agenda, so as soon as
Alright.
possible, we get some help for OC in addition to that.
Yeah, if you want to make a note.
My hand is raised, Catherine. Just my hand is raised, but I don't see it raised here, but it's raised.
See
May
it
I,
raised.
may I speak now? Oh, there it is. Yes. Mr. Chair, may I speak?
Yeah. I thought you've already made your point of having.
No. So I guess this is all new information. Thank you, Liz, for your service this year and over the years. So if there is a special election, what is the process? Have we looked into the process for conducting an election virtually in this world? There are a lot of online virtual platforms, and a roll call vote wouldn't work for this type of situation, I'm assuming. That's a question to our district.
Normally we don't have roll call votes, and we do it on paper, but that's probably impractical. So I think, the simplest thing would just be to have a roll call vote. And the reason we do this paper ballot thing in general is to, save someone's, not embarrass them if they don't get elected because they watch everyone not vote for them. But here, I think they'll probably, ideally, we will actually have a candidate who's willing to be assistant secretary. And then I think, that we don't really need to hide this particular vote, or, it basically delays the actual details of the vote for a day. So we can just have a roll call. And we should, again, go out of our way. And I think, Liz's plight is very significant to, honor our secretaries because they do really yeoman's work. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also say that this will be a good time for us to think about electronic ways of conducting our December election. There is a software called Election Runner that you can look up, Ebenezer, that does this sort of like online digital election that is supposed to be unhackable by the Russians. Not to say that the Russians are going to hack our community board election, but you never know. But it's called Election Runner.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna now undertake, Jim. We're gonna have to work on that so that we have that position filled.
Well, I think we can get assistance from the borough president's office about how to run, our next, big election, and maybe from the mayor's office. They've probably already looked into this ideally.
I'm sure.
So
that was going to be my question, that probably the mayor's office or the governor's office has provided some guidance on how elections and voting can be done legally during this interim period.
Correct.
So we should check with them.
Yeah,
if I just may, as I mentioned to you when we ran into each other on the census day, and I told Jonathan also that we could follow up on this, but one of our CBs, a few of our CBs have already had elections in this remote platform, and our CB1 district manager, Lucian Reynolds, did present at the last Borough Services Cabinet, step by step, how the system that they had used. And so while that is not an open meeting that we recorded, that is certainly a resource that Ebenezer can connect you to as a model for a successful board election in this platform with the consultation of our in-house counsel and all of these other regulating entities.
I would also like to take moments of thanking our comrade at Borough President's office in this and for Curtis Young of Public Safety for his pointing out the problem with the potential hacking of elections.
Okay, thank you. Gerard, I'd like to hear your report since you just joined us.
Well, yeah, good evening, Chair, and good evening, everybody. I hope everybody had a great, restful summer. It's great to see these faces. My report is really just to speak to Ebenezer and say that I'd be grateful if maybe we could coordinate. I know we didn't get July, August, September numbers, but maybe we could talk so that we could present the first quarter update in October. First quarter would obviously be July, August, and September. So not a report, but more a request that we can put those numbers to paper and present that at the first quarter. Would that be possible, Ebenezer?
Sure. This week, tomorrow I have the district service committee meeting. We can talk it in the afternoon or maybe Friday.
Okay,
Okay.
sure.
Okay, Gerard, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we move on to the committee
No,
chair
no,
reports?
I give my remaining 1 minute back to the group.
It took longer this week than you've ever taken. So we're gonna move on to our committee chair reports. I'm trying to get us to say as much as we can without taking a lot of time. So we're gonna have Isidro Medina, our licensing chair, move on with the next report. Isidro, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being part of this. Quick notes on, you all know that most restaurants, all restaurants are going to be opening up with a 25% capacity with some restrictions. There has been some push by some local elected officials to have the open dining room permanent, being pushed by our local elected officials, including our distinguished Gail Brewer, the congressman, and many others, to have this on a permanent basis. Based on a report by Business Insider, it's expected to have anywhere beyond 70% of all restaurants not to be opened beyond December 2020. So that is a critical number that if it comes true, is going to devastate our restaurant industry in Northern Manhattan. As we know, they employ a lot of the local employees, and for us, that'll be devastating. Just quick, those two quick points. Quickly, we had not many issues. We had 18 licenses. Out of those, there were 7 renewals. All of them passed. There were no critical issues at the renewing aspect of the license committee. There were 2 changes of operations and 6 new licenses. Out of those 6 new licenses, we approved 2 of them. One of which was a very small license that did not require extended hours, and the method operations were not very insane. So on that note, we approved a new business coming to 207. Miss Delicias Colombiana is going to come to 588 to 107th Street. And there was one license that was withdrawn at the meeting, and the rest did not pass because they didn't present proper documentations. We have to work with the office to make sure that we get all the questionnaires in place, all the floor plans, and also all the menus for the new applicants. I know that we're going through a special circumstance here with this insidious pandemic, but between Ebenezer, myself, and the staff, let's try and do perhaps a little bit of a better job in getting the paperwork as we had agreed, which is the Friday before the meeting. All documents should be in place, but I understand that these are special circumstances. With that, I'm going to open up the floor for questions. I see.
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
You got so, I think he said he saw Curtis.
Okay,
no,
so
Curtis is not there.
I see Natalie, Domingo. Well, maybe they had their hands up before or up for some of the issues.
I lowered mine. I apologize.
All right, thank you, Natalie. Curtis, you have a question?
Well, I had a question. You called my name?
All right. So perhaps, Catherine, can you guide me to who had the hand first?
Yeah, so Curtis's hand was old, so yeah, it's Domingo and then Ariel.
Domingo?
Hey, how's it going? You hear me?
Yes.
All right, so my question is around, so you're basically saying that the plaza that they created in Dykeman, that there's opposition to it?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't even mention that.
No, didn't you say that they were trying to make it permanent and what was?
No, I don't.
Domingo, I didn't make any mention of that, but that is something that has been worked on by some elected officials, and I just leave it at that. I didn't mention the plaza on my report. Catherine, the next one. Ariel.
Hi, everyone. So I was actually just interested in the business that you just mentioned that's going to be coming to 207th Street.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the business? I'm more so interested, being the person that's constantly eating out now, seeing what's going to happen.
Well, thank you, Ariel, for spending your money locally. For us as a community, it means a lot that your pennies and dollars stays here. Really important and really grateful for your patronage. So it's going to be a very small place. It's, the capacity is less than 70. And what they're looking for is ambient music, no DJ, no promoters. And the closing hours that they had requested, I believe were not beyond 2 o'clock in the morning. I think on the weekend will be 2. And the rest of the days will be, I believe, at 12 p.m. But you will see those details in the minutes. But it's going to be something different, Ariel. We need to diversify our restaurants here. And by having a Colombian restaurant will be, I think, a plus for the community.
Absolutely. Sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
You want some arepas, Ariel?
Anything to get me off Thai, Chinese, you know, getting my chicharrón de pollo every now and then. Maybe just a little bit of diversity, just a little bit more.
Pan de bon and Ariel, right? And arepas.
Yes.
You know,
so I had the hand, and my question was similar. So I think this is what Domingo was asking about when you opened up your report. You mentioned that there was a pushback on keeping open dining permanent. Was that what you were trying to say at the beginning?
What my comments were that what we have here in open dining has been supported by our local elected officials, including Gail Brewer, to put this permanent, meaning that every summer or every springtime, those will be available for those restaurants that qualify and follow the guidelines. However, because they do take some parking spaces in the community, that has been an issue, and I'm sure that the city will address that when the time comes. But thus far, it has helped a lot local restaurants, and I hope it does continue with more regulations in place and implemented.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you.
Okay, to add to what Domingo was saying, yeah, there has been, I think on a specific Instagram page, I think it was Dykeman Diary, in which one of the business owner was stating that there has been some pushback. Doesn't relate to what Isidro was referring to, but there has been some situations and some business owners that have approached me and said that there's even a web page or some Facebook page called Keep Them Honest, whatever that means. But there has been some movement towards some opposition to, as usual, to some of the operation of some of the businesses. But sort of like to chime in on what Domingo and Catherine just mentioned. I'd like to move on to Debbie. Debbie, you've been busy with the Rebel and everything else that's going on.
I've been so busy, and it was a busy summer, like I know for almost every committee. And so I hope everybody will give me a little forbearance. I am not one to take a lot of time of this committee, but tonight I might need a few extra minutes. At first, again, because there were so many big things that happened this summer, I just want to spend a little time on a much abbreviated version of the update I gave my committee, and then I'll go on to the actual committee meeting and a resolution that was passed out of my committee. First off, there were 2 meetings over the summer of the 181st Street Busway project, that's part of the mayor and DOT's Better Buses plan or program. The Community Advisory Board has DOT put together this Community Advisory Board. It's all the electeds. It's Isidro sits there on behalf of the bid. We're there. We have a few members of Traffic and Transportation who've been participating, or at least at the first one. At the most, and I should say, all presentations on that have been made so far, the 2 presentations, everything is online, so people can refer to it. I think it's nyc.gov/betterbuses, but just Google it if that doesn't work. And so I will say the first draft plan was presented in September, very much a first draft. It was I think a fairly productive start. People can take a look and get an idea. The only thing they haven't talked about yet in any fashion is what hours of the day this would work. I will say, and that of the many, obviously every neighborhood thinks they have sort of particular things that aren't well understood. And we certainly feel in this neighborhood that we have so many conditions that are not common anywhere else. So a lot of the first meeting was spent trying to communicate that. We felt overall that some of the main issues that were raised were recognized either already in the plan or recognized verbally by DOT. Those main areas would be that you can't look at 181st Street in isolation. And so they're trying to look at it sort of 175 to 182. It's been everybody has felt strongly. I'm not going to spell out the reasons why. I hope, talk to me afterwards if that isn't sort of perfectly clear why you need to take it all into account from bridge to bridge, etc. So they are looking at it in that manner. There are issues with the street vendors that are there, and then what happens when then you have this busway and impacts on small businesses. And while that is a terribly difficult not to untie, they continue to try to come at that issue. And last, sort of my personal pet peeve is the degree to which this neighborhood gets locked up every Friday with weekend commutes home, and they came out and observed and realized the pain that we're in. So again, I encourage people to take a look, and those things continue. The idea will be that as far as Community Board 12 is concerned, my guess is the DOT will be to us in the November TNT and therefore the November general, and that it would be implemented soon after. So it's a little bit slower than what was originally anticipated. Moving on to City Bike, as people may know who have spent time between the southernmost portion of CB12 and 184th Street. Most of the stations have been installed. It is too early, and believe me, I have asked for utilization data or any hard data as of yet. Anecdotally, what everybody is seeing is the bikes are being used, but there's always special considerations when you're the top of where they've extended to and there's nothing above you. So obviously it places a limitation on I can't go any further. But we're definitely one of those neighborhoods being at the top of the hill, the bikes are leaving and they're not necessarily coming back. So I think whatever happens, we're going to have a lot of balancing to do to get bikes back up here. And they have ways to do that. We have a few spots in particular that we had specific concerns about that went ahead. Some things we had specific concerns about did get altered, but I am asking constantly for data as soon as we can have it to look at what's happening in those specific spots. These are not hardwired into the street, so if there are issues that buildings identify, that the community identifies with any spot, then please make me aware. Obviously, many people on this call were at that sort of quality of life noise meeting earlier in the summer. I just want to say that group that kind of came out of that, that have been sort of trying to Address Solutions did talk to me about speed bump requests, but I just want to make people aware that speed bumps no longer come through the committee and people do those direct with DOT, but I'm trying to keep close to sort of what they're isolating. Most of what they seem to be identifying is like Broadway between 190 and Dykeman, and then Dykeman west of Seaman, I think. So it's mostly around like in one way or another, sort of touching Dykeman in terms of what the requests that were put in. So now coming to my meeting. So we had two big items on the agenda. First was, if people remember, we passed a resolution last spring with regard to pedestrian safety changes around the area of like 157, 158 west of Broadway and going out to Riverside. But there was a component of that proposal which would convert what is currently a two-way street into a one-way street, what's called the lower roadway of Riverside Drive, that goes from 158th, then goes north to about like 161st and sort of merges in with Riverside Drive, with Main Riverside Drive. There was a lot of feeling on both sides about this proposal. And so what the committee did was we split out that portion for further consideration because we just needed a heck of a lot more detail. We raised some issues related to emergency vehicles, et cetera. They came back as requested in September with this meeting. They made some changes. I don't want to go into it tonight unless people ask for it. But where we came out after a lot of discussion was that we were not going to vote on it, that it was not going to be an up or down vote. And so it was a no action item. This has been a closely watched issue by, that's a very organized part of the neighborhood. Because of the viaduct project, amongst other things, they have got great like resident association, where people really stay in touch and on top of what's happening. So we had great engagement on the issue. And again, I'm happy to provide further detail, but people should know that no resolution came out of that. It does, though, leave us with a safety issue at the intersection of 158th, but I think we'll continue conversations about how we deal with the safety issue. The one-way street thing was related ultimately to some other things, although in part to the safety.
Oh, okay.
And then last we had, and I'm nearing the finish. Revel obviously we wanted Revel to come back with the restart of their operations. And they came to Traffic and Transportation. The CEO came, as well as Carol Antunes, who's the community affairs person who's been quite involved. I would say generally people were, obviously given where we were at, really put much more at ease about all the changes that have been made. I will give people a few salient points. They had about 100,000 customers, I think, going into the pandemic, and then they got like 200,000 more in the matter of months. Obviously, we saw the effects of that. To return to the service now, unless you've been already lifetime banned, they developed this like 42, I don't know, question safety thing that you have to do. So I asked, of those 300,000, how many have come back, have done that whole process, have taken the time? He said 65,000. So a huge drop off in terms of who's come back. And he feels like that's a good thing because he has more of the right people who are going to use the service in the right way. Further, he spent time presenting the various sort of like, if you do this wrong, it's a lifetime ban. If you do this thing, it's a suspension of 7 days. If you do it a second time, it's a lifetime ban. You know, just going through the different infractions. And then the last category was a number of sort of fraud things that they've put in that also weeds out some of the cases that you end up with misuse, like people might have lost a license and are finding a way in, and this and that. So taken together, oh, and then of course, the main thing is that you can't get on the bike without sending them a selfie with you wearing a helmet. So I think the committee overall felt relieved by many of the things that they mentioned. Obviously, we all need to be watchful. I'm not saying I haven't seen anybody blow through a red light as usual with a Revel scooter, but and then the other interesting thing that he said that has nothing to do with this committee, but does about just general, that again was an interesting thing to hear, is that business does not employ gig workers. He said, if you work at Revel in any capacity, you have the same health care that I do. Again, that was a positive. So there was that was that. And then finally, and I'm sorry this is going so long, we had John Greenfield from Yeshiva University, who had led with actually Wheels School a letter about the unsafe conditions on the northernmost stretch of Amsterdam, related to excessive speed and drag racing, and the massive wrecks that have occurred up there. The most recent one, which plowed into one of their buildings, and then the car caught on fire, and by the grace of God, nobody was injured. They had written a letter again that was signed by, it had YU, it had the local public schools, and all the other schools, heads of school, as well as a series of small business owners from nail salons and restaurants and delis and groceries and sewing machine repair, as well as all the electeds and the borough president. And so they had sent that letter. Obviously, CB12 got it as well. So we, and the letter goes to DOT and requesting sort of urgent action on that stretch to try to do some traffic calming measures. So I'm sorry I didn't have it ready in time because we got done, whatever. It was just, I drafted it pretty late last night. So I don't have it for you guys. And in fact, I sent it to the office at 45 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. But I will have that. And that's basically, for the most part, taking that letter and turning it into a resolution. And again, that applies to the stretch of Amsterdam, the northernmost stretch. So from northern tip to 181st. And the very, very super last thing I'd like to say is that I know, and if we still have, Ebenezer
I
here.
think we went past time.
Okay. All right. But actually, no, I want to do this because this has been an issue. I know the district service cabinet meeting is happening. Ebenezer, I see 181st Street DEP project is in there. That has been impossible to get any real updates from them. It has gone maybe 8 months longer than it was supposed to, but we cannot get a straight answer. It has been so disruptive. And then also the street lights that were pulled out like pre-pandemic, and we do not have them back. And that was a long time to go in the dark on Cabrini. So I guess I really, really, really would like, if you can press them for some more substantive answers, but also I'm just sort of wondering in general how we can sort of get updates from the DSC, because I'm not there, but then there are things about traffic and transportation. I don't know if other committees have that, but if there's anything, I know everybody's got a million things to do, but like if things get discussed, how do I find out? How do I get updated?
Okay.
And now I'm done.
Thank you, Debbie. Yeah. I'd like to move on to Ariel Miranda. If you guys have any questions to ask Debbie, please be more than welcome to email her or call her so that we can move on the agenda and be mindful of the rest of you guys.
Are we going to get to ask questions at all, like in the other committees?
we're gonna try our hardest, yes.
I just wanted to ask, well, actually make a point quickly on this.
Yeah, if you're gonna make a point, thank you.
Yeah, it's just a point. And this could have been, and I'll be brief. I could have brought this up for licensing committee, traffic, transportation, business, or health. I really want to note an inconsistency and something that's arbitrary regarding what's being done to small businesses versus other things in our community. Note the inconsistency regarding COVID spread mitigation efforts regarding restaurants. There's no inside seating till September 30th. There's reduced occupancy, 25% outside, and it'll be inside. They have to clean, disinfect before, during, and after seating. They have to maintain social distancing, and they have people from the building department walking around giving them tickets if they don't do any of it. I just want to note this. All these measures, right, that Isidro brought up that are likely to close businesses down. And when it comes to like Revel, here's my question. Revel has no COVID mitigation restrictions. There's helmets that are used by many people, so that's a health issue regarding head lice and anything else. We were told in the meeting yesterday that the bikes are cleaned when they change the battery, which is about every 10th or 11th time it's used. All I'm bringing up to this committee and to our community is that there is absolute inconsistencies and arbitrary unfairness. Not all businesses are being treated the same. Revel gets a pass of what, once every 10 times they get to do it? Would they allow a restaurant to clean the table once every 10 times? Or a helmet spreading lice and other things? I mean, I just want to bring that up in fairness to our communities and the small businesses, many of which will go out of business because they're being treated differently than other businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. Thank you so much for your observations. Extremely instructional and educational. Ariel, if you will.
Hi all. So essentially going a bit more brief, we really etched into two things this past month. One being our committee goals for the year. I want to take some time to specifically highlight some of the issues that were of interest in the previous year. Some that some of the committee members had mentioned they want to go a bit more in depth on. I had brought up specifically focusing on connecting with organizations that work with individuals that are homeless, particularly the Coalition for Homeless, and particularly Picture the Homeless. Some of our members had a whole list of different concerns. I'll just mention, Ada was mentioning the Right to Counsel bill, specifically the expansion of it so that it's actually more accessible in the coming next few months rather than waiting until the end of, I think it was 2022 that the official enactment goes through for the entire city, as well as a number of others. Beyond that, I went on to begin talking to some of our newest members about the process that will be going on in the coming month, essentially picking our own committees, individual capital and expense items. And that was pretty much it for us. Was there any other questions, thoughts, concerns? I'll be happy to go back to my smiling face picture instead.
Okay, great. Me too, Ariel. Thank you. Liz?
I don't know, we like the beard, Ariel. So it's very cute. It's a good look for you. So there's a lot going on in parks and culture. We've got most of our parks are back open. There's a lot of sports that's now happening. People are encouraged to wear masks, but you can play tennis now, you can play basketball. I personally don't think the basketball is such a good idea because nobody's wearing masks and it's a lot of up in your face, but I'm not playing basketball. So you do not need a permit to use the tennis courts, but people are asked to, use an honor system of not using more than an hour, particularly when there are people waiting. League sports for children are being permitted in the ball fields, but other events can be permitted at parks concessions, which in this community, the only parks concession that we have is the Hudson. It's now permitted for events of up to 50 people where with no amplified music, and anybody has to submit a safety plan for distancing and contact tracing and all of that. So things are slowly beginning to return to something that begins to approximate something in the neighborhood of normal, but on a much smaller scale. There's no movement on the RFP for the New Leaf Cafe. That hopefully will be happening in the next, in 2021, but that kind of took a backseat to a lot of issues related to COVID. But parks continue to be open, and despite incredible budget cutbacks, they're doing a a reasonably good job cleaning up after people who do not clean up after themselves. There have been a lot of public education campaigns with parks enforcement trying to stop some of the larger parties before they start. So, if you want to have a party in the park, that's great. If you want to roll up with tents and rental furnitures and a professional DJ sound system and 12 cases of beer, not so much. Parks has 7-day-a-week cleanup details that do roll into the parks at 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning. So if there has been a lot of activity, if you're the sort of person who is out there walking your dog at 5:30 or 6, you're going to see that garbage. But if you're out in the parks, even as early as 8 or 8:30, most of that detritus has been cleaned up. So that's good. And with the help of a little bit of use it or lose it money at the end of the fiscal year, we did get a couple of trash grabbers and some bags, and I've gone out on some late night cleanups with various members of the community and other members of the board. Shout out to Curtis, shout out to Noble, shout out to Danielle, shout out to Sally, and we've picked up many bags of garbage. So if anybody's interested in that, let me know. I've got gloves, I've got bags, I've got pickers, I've got hand sanitizer. Yesterday, I was delighted to join Eleazar, Isidro, Ebenezer, the council member, the state senator, the commissioner, Steve, at the ribbon cutting for a beautiful new soccer field in the northern part of Highbridge. Well, the central part of Highbridge Park, just north of 175th Street, where you would enter for the tower. It's a gorgeous soccer field with artificial turf. It was, with so much just shitty news, it was really nice to be able to see something so beautiful. And I think that it's going to be extremely well used. And I continue to be really amazed by the Parks Department's ability to do as much as they do in the face of continuing cutbacks. That said, there continue to be some really persistent issues with noise and partying. Inwood Hill Park, particularly the Peninsula area and the Indian Road Lawn area is a huge issue. I think some of that is going to be taken care of as the weather gets colder, but we have a number of neighbors who have had a really hard time with that. I've been working with Curtis and the Public Safety Committee, with Jennifer Hoppe, Parks Enforcement, with the 34th Precinct to try and get some more resources, again, to stop some of the really large out-of-hand parties before they start. And that's been somewhat successful. Last weekend was actually really good, so that was nice. And I did speak with the Commissioner for Parks Enforcement, and they will be attending our next meeting. And I think they're going to try and attend or send a representative on an ongoing basis so that they can share information about deployment and also hear people's feedback. Not so that we turn every committee meeting into an undifferentiated fetching session, but just so that that's another way for Parks Enforcement to hear what people's issues are. In terms of culture, the Cloisters is open for timed visits. Many museums throughout the city are now opening for timed ticketed visits with their capacity at 25%. Virtually all of our arts organizations are operating virtually, not in real life. If you think it's difficult, operating a restaurant at 25% and the hit that that is taking on your business. I would like for the food and beverage industry to hold the arts and culture industry's beer. There are no plays, there's no nothing. And that's really been a struggle because so many of our neighbors are staring unemployment in the face. So that's my report. If people have questions, they are free to ask me. And the Hispanic Society is going to be opening up, this is amazing, an outdoor exhibition of 10 really high quality reproductions of some of their most beloved pieces. And there will be Q codes where you just shoot your phone and you can get some information about each piece, and recordings of neighborhood people talking a little bit about the pieces of art based on materials provided by the curators. So there are so many organizations that are just trying to be inventive on how they bring their operations out into the public, either in ways that are small and safe or that are virtual and online.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I'd like to chime into your report and give special thanks to first Steve Simon for the invitation to the Cotton Ribbon yesterday, and also to another part of our city, that part of our parks that may or may not go unnoticed, and that is the parks in 190th in Amsterdam. I believe the work that is being done there by the League Uplift and Domingo, that for each and every tournament that they make, there's one less inmate. There's one less person that goes through the system. So I like to take an opportunity, because I've been extremely active this summer. Well, not this summer, but during the past month or so, as to see how kids are being very responsive, and how the park is full of people practicing sports, especially basketball. So I wanted to add on to your report and mention that. And having said that, I'll lay it out for Steve Simon to come in and
Actually,
give us a report.
Liz, could you clarify how the Hispanics, or where the Hispanic Society is doing their outside exhibit? Is it in the courtyard on 155th Street or elsewhere?
They're doing it in the courtyard. They're doing it in that courtyard at the Broadway entrance, but not up the stairs.
Okay.
You know what? I think they're doing it. You would think I would know this. I will know more tomorrow and I will get back to you on the specifics. I think it's not up the stairs so that it's accessible, but I would not swear to that.
Except it's down the stairs, so it still wouldn't be accessible, but maybe they can do a ramp temporarily.
Yes. I will check and let you know.
Thank you. Steve?
Can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you perfectly.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Liz, I'd appreciate it if you'd also let me know about the Hispanic Society event.
Will do.
All right, thank you. And that new soccer field is beautiful, gorgeous. It's the answer to a dream I've had for over 15 years to convert a completely unused space. And Isidro remembers at one point, it was just a dumping ground for abandoned cars. And today it is an unbelievable resource for kids in our community. It's going to be used by the Uptown Soccer Academy, and I'm sure other soccer groups as well. And it just looks beautiful. It's a wonderful job. It's amazing what we can do with $4.8 million. With the Health and Environment Committee, as of last Thursday, the community has suffered 927 deaths as a result of COVID-19. Zip code 40 is moved up of several notches on the list of in terms of the 177 zip codes in the city. It's now ranking at number 69 in terms of cases per 100,000 people. But the zip code with the highest number of deaths in our community is zip code 32 with 286. Zip code 40 has 268 deaths. and zip code 33206, zip code 34, 167. So what's interesting is at least, I mean, that's just awful that we've suffered so many deaths. If we can take any comfort from the situation, the last time I checked the statistics about 2 months ago, we were at 900. We were at 910. So over the period of 2 months, there have been 17 more deaths, which is certainly a much slower rate than what we experienced in March, April, and May, and June in particular. EMS, the EMS captain in charge of the station at 172nd and Amsterdam Avenue gave a report. And of course, EMS has been very busy, but perhaps not as busy as I thought they would be during this COVID-19 crisis. Because what they found is that a lot of people who would normally call for an ambulance for all sorts of other conditions were avoiding going to the hospital. And even they found even the number of drug overdoses in our district declined during this period. Somehow, I guess people weren't going out and getting access to drugs. But meanwhile, 34 of their 96 employees got sick. Fortunately, none of them there were no fatalities, but they had to, they lost a lot of regular tours. And so a lot of their employees ended up working 16-hour shifts, sometimes as many as 5 days in a row. So I think, at some point we really need to pay tribute to the EMS employees. They really were on the front line of the front line, is the way I've been phrasing it. They're the people that COVID-19 patients to a great extent saw, had their first contact with. And I just can't imagine people working 5 days in a row, 16-hour shifts. And according to the captain, nobody was complaining. They understood what their job was, what they needed to do, and they were dedicated to doing it. We now have 50% more ambulances serving the district. We have not 9 ambulances as opposed to the 6 that we normally have. Things are returning to normal, and but there's still above the average that they've had in the past. With the DDC/DEP water main installation projects in our district, happily, the water main installation in Inwood, in the Park Terrace East, Park Terrace West area, finally was completed. I'm not aware of the Debbie of the DEP project on 181st Street. So Ebenezer, I would also appreciate getting what information you have on that project. And I could, if this is being handled by DDC, I could certainly ask them for monthly updates as they've been giving me on their other projects. The Ryan Health Center, a new facility on Wadsworth Avenue, just south of 181st Street, should be opening by the end of September. This is a major gain for the community. It's a great health organization, which will provide a full range of services to people in our district. At Isabella reported no new COVID cases, and currently, which is good news. The New York State Nurses Association came before us to once again ask us to support them in their efforts to reinstate the psych unit at the Allen Hospital. There's been some recent correspondence between the elected officials and the president of the hospital. The president is now saying he's going to do a comprehensive review of their mental health services in the fall. And the Nurses Association asked, and I agreed, and I'll be hopefully working with Ellie to do a follow-up letter to our resolution, reiterating our support for the reinstatement of the psych unit and indicating our desire to work with him on whatever review they're conducting about their mental health services. In line with that, I've repeatedly asked the hospital to provide us with basic information about the number of patients admitted and discharged from the main hospital at 168th Street, from the Children's Hospital, from the Allen Hospital, and For whatever reason, which to me is just unfathomable, the hospital refuses to provide this information. They'll only tell us how many patients are being served by their entire system, which includes facilities in Westchester, Brooklyn, Queens, all over the place. And I keep telling them our focus is on Washington Heights and Inwood. We want to know about the services you've been providing and the impact that COVID-19 has had on the facilities in our community. And I reiterated that request in a meeting of the Community Leadership Council of the hospital this morning. Cedro was also on that call. And once again, did not get a positive response. I'm now supposed to have a offline call with a couple of the hospital administrators in the near future to discuss this matter. I don't know that there's much to discuss. Seems to me it's just simple. This is basic information that any institution would want to provide. I would think that it's to their benefit to let us know how much work they've been doing on the COVID-19 issue. Finally, as you know, and as Debbie referred to, we had a noise pollution public hearing in early August. As a follow-up to that hearing, the woman who founded the Facebook site, Wahi and Inwood for Respectful and Decibel Levels, gave a pretty thorough presentation, PowerPoint presentation on different strategies and different ideas that could be pursued to try to counteract the noise pollution in our community. Yes, one of those suggestions was to have speed humps. But there are other suggestions there that maybe are more feasible that we can pick up on. And during the course of that public hearing, Tanya Bonner had suggested to Eleazar that the community board form a task force to continue to act on the issue. And at that public hearing, Ellie said he would do so. But subsequent to the public hearing, Tanya and some of the other people from that group decided that they would prefer to have what they considered to be a community-run task force. So they had a press conference. They announced that they would be forming it, and Tanya reported to my committee that they have issued a mission statement, and they have plans to create that task force, presumably in the near future. Our role with respect to that task force, I guess, has yet to be determined. And that is my report.
Thank you, Steve, for being a community member and a board member, both. I think that I really commend your work, and I saw your leadership at yesterday at Ribbon Cutting. So again, thank you for the invitation, for the invite. Faye, you're next.
I actually have my hand up.
Yeah, sorry.
We didn't see it. Sorry, Debbie.
Debbie, before you go, can I just ask both Steve and Ariel to lower their hands since it's from earlier and confusing? And so it's Debbie and Wayne that have their hands up.
So you said Debbie and Wayne, just those two.
Yeah.
All right.
So I just want to address, Steve, what you said about DDC and the project that the DEP has going, catch basin replacement at the corner of Cabrini and 181st, which, by the way, was a brutal thing to have during pandemic as restaurants started to be able to put some tables outdoors. And obviously we've lost we had lost at a certain point the whole stretch between Cabrini and Pinehurst. But anyway, it is not, DDC is not involved. And I guess the thing that makes me crazy in this situation is that if it was a capital project, there would be that community liaison as reports to Steve's committee, and I get copied on a lot of stuff as well, about what's happening in a project. So if it falls way behind, you know about it. I'm sure Ebenezer deals with the CCLs all the time. And what I came to learn, because it has been impossible to get an update, is that because this was categorized as an emergency project, even though it is a long-term project, it does not get a community liaison, meaning there's nobody whose job it is to follow the fact that things are going wrong. Now, what happened here is that Con Ed is really, it's, you know, they had to go in and move their stuff underground for DEP to do their thing. And that's turned into quite an odyssey. So I guess what I'm saying is, from a practical manner, there is no way that I have figured out to get this board updated. And when residents are going berserk and small businesses are going berserk and there's nowhere to get an answer, that's a problem. Like, if this isn't a fundamental like community board issue, I don't know what is. And I've tried it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So that, but Steve, that's why DDC is not around this thing. And that's why we can't get really, you know, much visibility.
Okay, great points, Debbie. Unless anyone else has anything
Yeah,
to
actually,
add in reference.
yes, my hand has been up. So Steve?
I thought that Gerard was, who was first?
No, it was Debbie and Wayne.
Okay.
And Gerard just raised his hand.
Okay, so Steve, concerning the psych unit at Allen Hospital, when we discussed this maybe a year ago or so, we learned that if you present at Allen Hospital for psych, the evaluation and intake is actually done on 168th Street, and then you have to be transferred back up to Allen Hospital if you are admitted. And back then, and I would say even now, the question is, does that make sense? Should we simply be advocating for the psych unit to be reopened at Allen, or should we say either the psych unit should be open at 168th Street where the intake and evaluation is, or there should be intake and evaluation at Allen so that if you present there, you don't have to be transferred downtown, only be transferred back uptown?
Can I respond?
I'm asking you.
Okay, well, I'm asking the leader of the chair.
I guess the meeting, yeah, I guess go ahead, Steve.
Okay, Wayne, that is an absolutely excellent point. And I think it's a point that I've also been making. When I heard about this, I thought it was insane. Well, that's a strange word to use in this context. But you know, to have them transferred back and forth, that was my initial reaction. I said, why don't we just move the entire psych unit down to 168th Street? I mean, what is the point of this? And but apparently, you know, considering the current configuration and bed assignments, there is no room. I told the hospital early on, I would be happy if you don't want to open it back up at Allen, just provide the beds down at 168th Street. I told them that, but you know, they didn't accept that idea either. But I think I have to check the resolution. I think we may have also made that point in our resolution. You're absolutely right. You know, there is an issue with having them going back and forth, especially considering their condition. But the problem I have is the hospital's refusal to engage with us and to have a discussion with us and to give us a really coherent explanation of why they're trying to push for the closing of that unit, and why they won't even make a commitment, even though they closed the unit in the middle. Even though in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis, where they were, you know, directed by the governor to make available as many beds as possible, they for COVID-19 patients, they closed the psych unit, which, you know, maybe at that point they had justification to do so. But I also think it would have been proper and as a courtesy to let us know that it was happening. I think it was wrong for me to find out, I think, second or third hand that it happened. I mean, they knew of our keen interest in this issue and don't bother to tell us that it's been closed down and patients are now being sent to the Upper East Side and God knows where else. That was also wrong. You know, the hospital's community relations on this issue, I think, leaves much to be desired.
Okay. Thank you both, Wayne and Steve, for bringing such an important issue. And I think that we should all rally behind it. And I think that we can cohesion the board and try and get us what Steve has been asking for. It will get us most traction and even more than other issues that are just as important, but it's pretty much a critical health issue that our community should get answers on. So thank you. And I thought that was someone else. Was it Gerard? Was it Gerard,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, quick. Thank you, Chairman. Steve, a question. I'm back. I know I'm harping a little, but Do you think it's possible that Health and Environment might look at, you know, like the disparity between the restrictions placed on businesses and facilities versus businesses like Revel, you know, and there doesn't seem to be any real COVID mitigation measures there. People use those 10, 15 times with no cleaning, no disinfection. There's health issues related to the helmet. I think you did a great point reporting on all the things that other agencies are doing in our neighborhood. But these are things that place riders at risk, you know, their health. Is that something you might take up in the committee?
Well, I don't know. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, let's have a, I don't think I have to wait for a committee meeting because this is a sort of a hot topic right now with Revel coming back online. You know, I think we can legitimately, I can legitimately approach the health department on this question. So I'd like to be able to talk to you a little more directly and make sure I'm covering your points. And I have no reservation about reaching out to the health department and asking them whether they think this is what whether or not further oversight is required for Revel.
Good. Or any bikes like that. Thanks. I'll give you a shout tomorrow. Appreciate it.
All right.
All right.
Guys, thank you. Thank you for looking out. Unless we have someone else, I'd like to move on and have Faye take the floor. Faye?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Yes, well, my report, as you probably already, everyone saw, our committee discussed on a very important issue that everyone knows what is the problem that we are facing, you know, with the reopening of the school system, the uncertainty that, you know, parents and the community at large is having. So this time we discussed not only the reopening and the growing uncertainty, you know, about the reopening of the school, but also the problem that we are facing with the all the school, many schools, about 21 schools are facing with the ventilation problems all over the city. But this time we decide to bring a few parents and listen to their frustration, their concerns. And I think it was in part very emotional. Some of them, the way that they express their frustration, they are uncertainty, they don't know exactly, you know, what is going on. And frankly, some of them, they are just lost, you know? So one of the things that we, that I think that it was, that I commend my committee for is for allowing this specifically, or came up with the idea that having them just expressed. Next Monday on the 21st, as we know, the mayor along with other high-ranking leaders, they decided that they're going to open, the reopening is going to take place on Monday. But still, there is a lot of things that they are not discussing. And in fact, from the time that was supposed to the school be open, which it was last week, to next week, what they are doing is basically is preparing the ground, meaning bringing the teachers to the school to prepare, I guess, the environment. But the thing is that still, although the department had took the time to, or is taking the time to prepare that in advance, many people feel that perhaps maybe that may not even happen. But we have to wait and see exactly how this is going to unfold on Monday. I wanted to say also that depending on what happened on Monday, we probably may have to take like a strong initiative, and I mean the board as a whole, and perhaps we may have to even protest if things doesn't get, or I should say, if the mayor or the DOE doesn't deliver the promise, all the promises that they have committed to, you know, to the parents. I also wanted to say that's in the positive note, I would say, having the parents express themselves, but in the negative side, in the meeting, one thing that I wanted to bring the attention, and I hope this is something that we have to really pay closer attention to it. We have a tremendous noise, technical problems in the background. And I don't think that was really, didn't went too well. So I just hope that the next time we don't have that problem. We have people, injecting into the conversation and so forth. This is my report, and I just wanted to say one announcement that I wanted to share with Ariel, and also I will be sending you on behalf of my committee an invitation because we're supposed to discuss the second part of homelessness among students in the double up. So we had that back in 2017, and we're supposed to have that conversation last year, but didn't happen. So I hope that we can do that in collaboration, because some already start speaking to people in the with DOE and DYCD as well. So just wanted to give you that kind of, upfront notice. So when you receive the email, so hopefully you will, in the meantime, just think about it to see if you want to have that forum in collaboration with the Youth and Education Committee, perhaps maybe on October the 13th. And this is my report, and thank you.
Thank you, Faye.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, could I also say something, please?
All right, so Domingo and then Steve.
Yeah, Faye. So my biggest thing is, and I would encourage you to ask the DOE, in how many teachers, like actual teachers, not substitutes, are operating within the in-school instruction. Because from my understanding, there's a big issue going on around there not being enough teachers because a lot of them have opted out to only work virtually because of a prior condition, et cetera. So I think one important stat to be able to look into, so that we could look into the disservice that's currently happening to the kids within our district, is how many actual teachers are operating the in-person learning.
Yes, and many. There is a great number. I don't recall the number if it was in the 20th. I don't know. Teachers that have left the system as well, just because they cannot cope with the virtual, the virtual remote learning. But yes, I can definitely ask that information. And
Yeah, I think it's more than 70% of actual teachers who will be working from home, and the system is overran by substitutes. Just something to look into.
Okay. Natalie, I think you wanted to chime in and say something in regards to that.
Yes, I just wanted to thank you all, say that once again, COVID or no COVID, the borough president will be having an action day for the first day of in-person learning. And we will be handing out packets to parents that include 10 masks, 2 bottles of sanitizer, and postcards with information on, can anybody guess?
Census.
Census. Thank you. We have only a few days left, and those 2 weeks will be key on closing that gap and getting the count up in Washington Heights and in Manhattan in general. As I've said, no one wants to lose to Staten Island. So we do, invite, people from the board who want to volunteer at the schools on our list. I will send something out to Ebenezer and Eleazar so that he can share it with you folks in case you want to join us on the 21st. Thank you.
I must say that I already signed up, and I will be volunteer with Borough President, and they're a school that I'm going to be delivering those supplies as well. So I'm already registered.
Thank you, Faye.
Welcome.
Thank you. Someone else had a question? Steve. Was that you, Steve?
Yeah, thank you. Well, wearing my Parks hat, and I should have told this to Liz, we've arranged for Castle Bridge School to use the newly renovated Audubon Playground. We've been able to open up 3/4 of the playground. 1/4 still has to be done. So we've worked it out so that access can be provided to most of that playground. The new open field, basketball court, some of the play equipment will be available to the school. The school is going to use it for recess, arrivals, dismissals, and hopefully we can also work it out so that the general community can also have access at this point. But the entire playground hopefully will be finished in about a month or so. But we felt that there was some urgency, and frankly, the school was pushing us to do it so that they could make use of the space before as school opens next Monday. And fortunately, we were able to work it out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We'll be honored to present our next guest, Mr. Wayne Benjamin.
Thank you, Eleazar. So, Land Use Committee, we discussed two topics, but we discussed them somewhat at length. I think all board members probably received an email from the Department of City Planning sometime in late June, whereby, DCP stated their support for Black Lives Matter and, for inclusion and equity in, the planning profession and the planning process. And I wanted to explore further what that really meant. I mean, everyone, well, not everyone, but a number of organizations are issuing their public statements. But I wanted to understand what city planning saw as some of the historical ways that planning and zoning was used to exclude and not to be inclusive. And so I invited initially our two DCP reps, and they later invited some others from city planning to join us in that conversation. I also reached out to our planning rep at the borough president's office, that's Tim Anderson, and then looped in Sean Rickenbacker, who you may recall is the new director of the Bond Center at City College. And, the Bond Center is very focused on, the just society as it pertains to planning and zoning. So we had an interesting conversation, but I would say that is the beginning, not the end of that dialogue, because there are still questions that need to be answered. I mean, one of which is, what is the actual diversity of city planning as it pertains to their actual staff? That was not a question, they could answer. And also, beyond redlining, which we all have heard about, what are other ways that, the planning and zoning process in the city has been used, in fact, to, support segregation? And we need to look at how we can be more proactive with our planning process and expressing our planning needs to ensure that, our needs are presented and acted on in such a way, that equity and inclusion are in fact part of that. And we of course need our elected officials, the borough president office, to help us push that forward. And one of the things we probably want to pay attention to is the neighborhood planning and land use study that we worked on once again with City College back in 2007. That study is now more than a decade old. It stated at the time broad, community needs vis-a-vis planning and land use. I think it's time for us to refresh that, but also refresh that, from the perspective of, are those still our goals, and how do those goals embrace and enhance this whole issue of equity and inclusion? We then moved on to a discussion of a proposed development at 857 Riverside Drive. And interestingly, Debbie, this is on the lower drive that you were just discussing. Long story short, it is basically a one family structure that dates back to when it was the Audubon estate. And the proposal is to demolish that building and to replace it with a 13-story, 46-unit development. And there is a lot of community opposition to that. And the question is whether the zoning calculations are correct, which for the most part, we've checked, we've been in touch with city planning and with, the borough president's office. It's not, the zoning calculations are, fairly accurate, but there are some questions about how the street width is being measured, because the street width then determines which FAR governs. There are questions relative to whether the sliver law should apply, because if the site is less than 50 feet wide. So there are some additional technical questions, that, come into play, and we have proposed those to both the Department of City Planning and to the Borough President's Office to help with, some more detailed analysis. But it turns out that a lot of the decision-making falls in the jurisdiction of the building department, because it is the building department that, will determine what the actual zoning envelope is and what is applicable. Gail Brewer has, personally advised that she is, looking into this and is, in communication with the building department. And we've also suggested to Eleazar that either he or the district manager follow up with the building department to get answers to these questions. It's not a matter of resolution. We just have technical questions, which we've outlined. We need responses to that. But I would say that it is a little bit more than this particular project, because in many cases we get community opposition to new developments. In this particular location, there are 2 prior community board requests that have gone unaddressed for the last decade. When Scott Stringer was borough president, we did what's called a soft site analysis. And that's basically looking at areas where you could build much larger buildings than is permitted as of right. And, in Washington Heights, west of Broadway, there are areas that are zoned R8, whereas most of the rest of the areas R7-2. R8 allows for a much higher density than R7-2, and this area is in R8. We requested back then that city planning do a contextual rezoning to address that, and city planning in the decade that has passed has done nothing. Also, circa 2008, when what is now the Audubon Park Historic District, which is where I live, when the boundaries for that were being considered, the community board was asked to give an opinion on what the study area and the boundaries should be, and we included the upper and lower drive for reasons that if you look at the housing stock there, it is as older, as interesting as some of the buildings that are in the historic district. Landmarks did not act on that, nor did they act on any subsequent community board requests to either look at an expansion of Audubon Park or adjacent, related districts. So this one-story building either would have been in the area that was rezoned contextually had city planning asked, or it would have been in an adjacent or expanded historic district if Landmarks would have acted. In neither case did either city agency give any attention to the resolutions passed by the community board more than a decade ago. And this is something where, once again, we need our elected officials, our borough president, and our council members to help get action, because we are not asking for unreasonable land use requests. We've provided city planning and LPC with reasoned resolutions in targeted areas, and there's been no response. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Anyone, any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
And I have my
please?
hand up as well.
So Steve, Debbie, and then we can move on to
Mariel
Mary
and
Anderson.
Domingo. Mariel from the comptroller's office.
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll
Okay.
do Steve, Debbie,
Wayne,
and Mariel.
Wayne, at the
Steve,
committee.
we can only see your chin.
Sit down, Steve.
How's that?
There you go.
Why I can't see anything.
Perfect.
At the committee meeting, Wayne, I think we agreed that we would have the community board send its own letter to the buildings department, pinpointing our questions so that it wouldn't get lost in translation.
Well, that's exactly what I said, that we've asked either Eleazar or Ebenezer to follow up, and I sent an email outlining the specific questions. I don't know if Eleazar or Ebenezer can advise if they've done so, but I sent an email summarizing the discussion, summarizing there are 6 questions, and asking for the follow-up directly with the building department.
All right. So the idea, I hope, would be that that Ebenezer or Eleazar would forward your email to the buildings department so they would know exactly which questions we have in mind.
Precisely. That's
Okay.
correct.
They're very good. Okay.
Thank you. Deb?
Yeah, Wayne, that does explain a lot, because it came up for amongst people on Monday night, and I didn't have the context. I guess just brief question. do you anticipate any issue with, like, in terms of the width of the street, that they'll just count the lower roadway? Like, they're not going to treat all of that, and then the little upper tiny roadway, they're not going to count all of that, are they?
But that is exactly the question, Debbie. For zoning purposes, for a street to be wide, it needs to be at least 75 feet wide. What we refer to as the lower drive is only 50 feet wide. So the only way it can be considered wide is if they're considering from curb to curb, from the lower drive all the way up to the upper drive. The problem with that, if anyone who knows the area, there's a tremendous change of elevation between the upper and lower drive. So to consider it the same street doesn't make sense, but that's the question. How is it for DOT's purposes a narrow street, and for city planning's purposes, there'd be a wide street?
Yeah, I don't even think it's 50. It doesn't add with what I saw, but thank you, Wayne.
Yeah,
Liz has a last
Debbie,
question.
at your meeting, I think DOT said it was only
Steve.
30 feet.
So therein lies the question.
Let me see what Liz has to say. I think she's raising her hand.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Wayne, for an incredibly thorough and interesting report. And I want to thank you, Eleazar, and Ebenezer in advance for moving forward with directing, with forwarding what Wayne has sent to the relevant agencies. And I think that, we have not only DOT's own very clear characterization of that very road as a narrow road, the idea that another agency could regard them as one road and go, width of the western curb of the lower drive to the eastern curb of the upper drive is ridiculous. The only change that I would make to whatever argument is being made to DOB with regard to the width of the roadway is to engage the congressman and the United States Post Office. And I say this because the United States Post Office mail carriers will tell you that the upper road and the lower road are different roads. So we got DOT saying that the lower road is only 30 feet wide and it's a narrow road. And I think that having, Adriano likes a good fight, and this is an easy one. And at this point, people are kind of having a lot of love for the post office. So I think throwing the feds into the mix here would be helpful. That's it.
Duly noted.
All right, so we're gonna include Ebenezer on.
Put on both your hats and
includes-
talk to yourself.
Yeah, the congressman involved in Debbie.
There's been an enormous amount of that this
Yes.
week.
Yes.
Did we
So,
have Marielle from the controller's office wanted to say something?
Who?
Marielle from the
Yeah,
controller's
she's
office?
been, I was. gonna
Waiting
have her speak
patiently?
Next. Yes, Marielle?
Hi, sorry guys, I'm not sure if this is appropriate or not because you move pretty quickly on these meetings. But I just had a question for Debbie that I put in the chat in the beginning and didn't have a chance to ask when you spoke. Just if folks were concerned about the Margaret Corbin not being an open street anymore, because I know some other areas had complaints about that, but I'm not sure. And I was in your meeting for a while, but I don't know if you all went over it at the end or something.
We did.
So
We
it's
did
not
go through it at the
blankets, right?
No.
We can, right. So I will defer to Eleazar, but I think either Liz or I can address that, and just whenever.
We could do it offline. I just want to, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to download with you.
My hand's
Absolutely.
been up for a while, so it wasn't for you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, Marielle, thanks for your patience. And Mary, quite contrary.
Never, never, never.
Love you, Mary.
Hey, I've got a resolution for you. We've actually been talking about, the long lines and that seniors and disabled have to stand in to be able to take care of their business. And after speaking with Domingo and with Isidro, came back to committee and came up with a resolution to hopefully address this issue. But of course, it has to get out to the businesses. And I'm hoping that, Isidro and others will help us do that. Basically, resolve that seniors and disabled be given priority to enter the necessary businesses to be able to complete banking, mailing, and buy items necessary for survival, such as food, medicines, and other necessities. So that seniors can be moved ahead in the lines, seniors and disabled people that cannot stand or, even sit on a walker waiting for a long period of time in these long lines that happen at various and sundry businesses. Don't know how to address that. Don't quite know how to address that with post offices and banks. But, we can do the best we can and hope that everybody will honor our efforts and vote in favor of this resolution when it comes to the voting. Sorry, hold on a second. Find my notes. We also completed our capital and expense budget priorities. Those will be in the minutes, but also further clarified next month. And one of the most important expense priorities that we added as number one is to expand mental health services for seniors in light of the COVID crisis. Seniors are really suffering from depression, from health issues more than ever because, friends have died, family members have died, and with the social isolation has come a big increase in the depression, and senior centers staff are reporting this constantly with their interactions with their people. That's about it, actually. Any questions, concerns?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mary. Public Safety Chair, Curtis Young.
Could I speak on Mary's report?
A comment, opinion, or a question?
A comment and a suggestion for you.
Great enough. Let's do it before Curtis that's ready.
Okay, very good. I think what Mary's resolution, I think, hits on a very significant issue, which affects a lot of people. There are some stores that do provide some advance hours for seniors, but maybe not enough. And I think this is a very good issue, which the community board can utilize to attract some attention to itself as well. And my suggestion is once we pass this resolution, Ellie, you reach out to the elected officials. Let's have a press conference. Let's get some publicity on this. Let's try to, I think the press would pick up on this. And I think we should ask, we should make something out of this issue and try to let people know that we're advocating on their behalf. My second thing, Mary, is that I'd like to talk to you about the this budget request of yours because I think it may be duplicative of what has been the number one priority from the Health and Environment Committee, and I wouldn't want to divide the votes or the ranking that's done by the community board members. We should try to join together and come up with one item that covers what you have in mind and what covers what the Health and Environment Committee has been advocating for as well. In past years, I think we did specify mental health services for seniors, and I think we can do that again.
I agree with that. We actually did kind of have a, brief discussion about that possibility in our committee. But we wanted to make sure that, it's, specifically addressed this time around because of, the increase in the mental health of seniors that the COVID crisis has caused.
Well, I mean, I think it's affected the mental health of people across the board, but
Yes,
let's
I
work,
agree.
but let's work together on this.
All right, let's do it. Steve, Isidro, you had a comment to make?
So for sure, Mary, I would definitely be able to support this resolution because I think it's needed. I'm sure it's going to pass. So for new license that will come on board, I will remind them that, this is a community board request, and also will be a best practice for businesses. And I'm sure that will be a welcoming, welcomed by restaurants in the area, because it's customary to do this in many other nations. I'm surprised that this nation has not caught up in that aspect. So definitely will be a welcoming aspect on licensing. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Really always being so proactive and
I just want to point one thing out. Since I have been on the Aging Committee, both as a public member and a member and now chair of the Aging Committee, this is the first resolution that we are having, that we're presenting. So,
well, it's a very good resolution.
Yeah, very good. Historically and needed. Okay, Curtis.
Thank you very much. As you all know, it's been a very busy summer with all of the situations happening around the community. We did participate in the noise complaint hearing, as well as we convened our committee during the month of July to kind of address some of these issues as well, or try to address some of the issues. We maintain communication with the people who established the noise group on Facebook. Claudia, she's been super helpful with updating me and informing me of what's going on with them, even though it's outside of the community board. Currently, I've enjoyed her updates. I have also been working with the precincts, trying to help localized situations with noise be resolved, like sort of a block by block type of approach by referring people to the precincts and helping them to get in contact directly with the NCO so they know exactly who to contact. I'm not always that person, but I can help facilitate the dialogue and the conversation to help them come to a resolution. And for what I have heard has been pretty successful with some individual cases that I've heard feedback from. Our agenda this past week, this past month, we did take a deeper dive into some of the 311 complaints. There seemed to be a pattern of 311 complaints being closed out very quickly by the precincts and not being very responsive to the concerns of people individually. So we are going to send particular questions to them next month in hopes of diving deeper into why we are seeing this as a pattern. I'm also going to be participating in the Beta NYC Zoom on Friday, I believe, with the Borough President's Office to get more info as well. So as you know, quality of life continues to be an issue in the community. I also personally, in my own efforts, attended NCO meetings in order to get to know these guys more and to help resolve some of the issues. I've been trying my best to attend many of the sector meetings over the past few weeks, particularly in August when they were having them. I'm not sure if the precinct councils are going to start back, but I've heard from the precincts they are planning to start them back this September. I have not received any notice, but hopefully that'll happen. There was a few other emails that came through over the summer pertaining to the garden on 158th Street. That's been somewhat of a disagreement between two neighbors and a community partnership between the parks and the neighborhood. And Liz has been involved with that. Eleazar is also, and Ebenezer, that's unresolved. I did receive an email a few days ago about this particular complaint, and it seems to have escalated once again. So I would love to get your feedback on what some of the next steps should be. It seems like it needs to be resolved outside of the committee, not something that I can manage personally as they expect me to do. And also, I don't think it's something that Liz can manage as the parks chair. So I would love to get more insight on what you think we should be doing to help these two constituents. Also, yes, please go for it.
It's kind of a hairy issue where there are sort of matters of fact and he said, she said, and it's a very law enforcement-y thing. And although it's a public area that's done through the Parks Department. It's essentially a beef that involves the police, and the police keep on saying, "Oh, well, bring it to the community board." No, no.
This is
I
just to kind of like chime in. Most of the people here in the executive committee are private to the debates and the inside information. So I think that's something that if you ask Lisa and myself, I think that's something that we can handle offline, since the majority of the executive committee members are not
that's
familiar
fine.
with the situation.
The point I was raising is that there seems to be a pattern of, when there are these issues, they'll say, go to the community board. And the community board, it's just like, it just has to be, we can't solve all these individualized problems. So I think we have to find a way to address them without taking on the burden of handling all these issues, even some that pertains to noise. So obviously noise continues to be an issue. I did speak with Steve Simon a few weeks ago after his committee meeting to come up with a resolution to put a little pressure on the agencies that will be responsible for these matters. Once again, we noticed that there was a lot of these, fireworks unaddressed. There's not a mitigation plan. I did speak with the commanding officers prior to the July 4th weekend, and they assured me they had a plan in action. I don't think that plan worked, and it continues to see, we continue to hear fireworks. So we're in September now. So there needs to be some sort of actual mitigation plan next summer, written well in advance of next summer, in order to at least address some of those issues. I know there's I mean, a lot of it is economic. People are selling fireworks. They're importing them from Pennsylvania and New Jersey, where they can legally buy them in places and bring them to the city and sell them for whatever profit they're making. But we have to figure out a way to address this particular issue, because it was a large portion of the noise complaint conversation that I think we have not resolved just yet. And thank you, Wayne, for all of your emails you sent to me about this issue. So the last thing yes.
What role do you think the NYPD played with their strike? Because technically, I was part of a situation that went down in one of the parks, and I myself heard an officer say, "Well, I thought you guys didn't want us, so why do you call us?" I witnessed that personally. So my question to that is, there's like this strike that wants to be considered a slowdown going on, and you have this crime spike currently happening. And is it like, it's like the PBA is enjoying this because they go and endorse Trump, but at the same time, it's like they're just chilling.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And that did come up in our meeting this past month of the perceived public strike. It actually came up in June meeting and July meeting, and they continued to, they kind of denied it. And, obviously no one's going to admit to slowing down or striking deliberately, but there seems to be a somewhat of a strike. And there are some people who have called for an investigation. I believe the public advocate called for it, and Eric Adams also called for an investigation of this. It's ongoing, so I don't have much to add. But yes, it seems to be that people who complain about fireworks, I have not seen them being responsive to going to some location to actually see what's happening on this particular block. I've witnessed it myself, and there was literally nothing. I mean, if I call like someone in particular that's come to help for the situation, they'll come. But I think citizens are not getting that same sort of like individualized support when they need to for the particular issue. So yes.
All right.
Okay. The last thing I have to mention for my agenda was September, the end of August, the NYPD released a discipline matrix, and they gave the public 30 days to respond. The discipline matrix did not come to my email address until after the committee had met. So we were not able to discuss the discipline matrix, but I did share a copy of what I would imagine to be a resolution that would be hopefully approved by the exec committee. It's nothing too crazy. It's basically just giving a few ideas on how they can improve their matrix. It's not anti the matrix. The matrix that exists because of a public outcry a few years ago in order to have greater accountability and greater transparency. So what they've done is they created this long matrix. It's a 53-page document. I read a few times this weekend, and I've noticed a few of the problem areas, and I've included that in the resolution, mainly being the resolve, where the matrix would revise the presumptive penalty list. So there's a list and there's several lists where they have like, if you do this, this is the action. If you do this, this is the action. Very few of them lead to termination. That's one problem. The second problem is that the overall investigation process, including things like failure to respond to a civilian complaint, such as if someone were to call about fireworks, if someone were to call about, you know, whatever issue, that is actually a penalty that can be held against them. In this current matrix, it is not the case. They get like 10 days if they're found, if it's substantiated. But so that's one of the problems. So that one of the issues surrounding this is the presumptive penalty list. The investigative process is still very internalized, and a lot of folks have advocated for this being an external agency or investigation. Like most city agencies, there's a New York City Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings that would conduct the hearing in the event of an employee who works for the city being, you know, found to have misconduct issue. And then the last issue, I believe, then this is a real big issue for me. I think the presumptive penalty lists are non-binding, which gives the commissioner, someone does something egregious, and the commissioner can still say, well, I'm not going to fire you, or I'm not going to penalize you at all. So I think the penalty list, they should consider having it as being binding, so that you are held accountable. And it's not up to the commissioner to hold you accountable. It's up to the independent investigation that we all also have included in this resolution. And that concludes my report.
Okay, Isidro has a comment or questions to make.
Hi, Curtis. My props to you and your committee and the NYPD for sending some forces to 174 between Audubon and Amsterdam. A very disturbing fact that there has been a lot of drug activities in the area, where a lot of our neighbors have complained about how they feel unsafe. And as I understand, there have been some operations there lately.
Yes.
So my props to you and your committee for taking care of this for our residents. As far as like the resolution, Curtis, lots of information here, lots of substance, and lots of numbers. I noticed that the presumptive penalty has a lot of numbers that you sent us. Very grateful for that. And I really appreciate the fact that you took that into consideration in keeping us informed. I'm sure you did your research, and I applaud you for that. I do, however, would like to read more about into the content of this report, and perhaps we can add more meat to it. And for that reason, I don't feel too comfortable in dealing with this issue at this point. So perhaps it will be something that you will consider on tabling or bringing back with more meat, so we can have more time to digest that report that you have, which is over 50 pages long, just to make sure that we have all the facts together. That's my idea, to perhaps to table it. But your comments are, Curtis.
Okay, yeah, so that was one of my concerns as well. It took me literally, because it is such a dense report. Like I said, the NYPD is giving the public only 30 days to respond. So we have to respond by September 30th. And in an ideal world, it would have come through my committee prior to today. That wasn't possible. I spent the weekend processing it, doing my own research to make sure it was factual. So that's why I brought it to the committee today. I did contact the parliamentarian and a few, just to get some advice on how we can provide feedback or comment in the event that the exec committee did not pass a resolution. I mean, the other option is for the chair to use the chair's power to write a letter and to respond to this, and hopefully work in collaboration with me to do that. If the exec committee did not want to move forward with passing a resolution and making our statement. So I literally have tried to do my research and present all information as possible. And I understand there are some time constraints, so thank you.
But a revised
Hang on a second.
could also be
Wait,
presented.
Faye was first. Faye?
Yeah, thank you. Curtis, thank you, for reading that important issue, about the resolution and many defense. So I think it's a good idea, yes, that we can, from the time that you actually share the resolution, so we can have more time to go over this. But one of the things that I wanted for you to consider is some way, somehow in that resolution to consider that. I don't know if the manpower that our precincts have are sufficient to correct the problems that you are enumerating in the resolutions. Because, for example, in my community, the eastern part of our community, it's really a problem. I see them coming and people, for example, when they have the loud music, okay, when they see the police or even the police get out of the car and ask them politely to, you know, to shut the radio or lower the radio, whatever, you know, they low. But once they leave, the problem continues. Right. Now, I want, that doesn't mean, I don't think that they're gonna be, you know, 24/7 on top of this, because they don't have all the police officers, and we have to be fair in that respect as well. Now, I know another part of the community, perhaps that problem is not as consistent as it is in our, and I can understand why, because we don't have individuals in St. Nicholas doing, for example, creating those noise, and we don't have that in Bennett Avenue, we don't have that in Fort Washington, and that is the difference. But we need also to be considerate that they may not have so many police officers available to be 24/7 trying to, you know, correct the other problems. So we have to also be kind of, you know, fair in the way that we're going to curtail, you know, this resolution. So I don't want it to make it seem like we trying to target them, you know, because this is not the case.
Yeah.
All we want is to correct the problem, but we have to be also fair and respectful about, you know, or mindful, I should say, more than anything. And I thank you for that.
Yes.
Curtis, I'm gonna, I think we should take up on your offer of writing that collaborative letter.
As a point of information, Eleazar, the other option is the general meeting is before the 30th. There's nothing that prevents this reso from being modified and presented to the full board at the general meeting.
Yeah.
I think I was getting around to that. So Wayne, thank you for summarizing my thought. Liz and Debbie. Liz, Debbie, Catherine.
Liz was after me, Debbie was before me.
Oh yeah, so Catherine, Liz, Debbie, since you haven't spoken all night.
Okay.
Sorry, I've had my hand raised for the past 20 minutes.
Ariel?
Ariel, yours was from the point before. I'll go ahead. I'll go after you.
Catherine.
Go ahead, Ariel.
But you haven't spoke.
It's okay. I'm just saying, just to add me onto the stacks.
Yeah, okay. What I was gonna say, I think the similar concern that I have around the suggestion with the reso of next week for the general meeting is that it is a substantive amount of information to present that same night, where more members will probably want to support and make amendments and additions. So I think perhaps still presenting it, and I'm not sure, again, this is a James thing, right? Where if we can collect how we have done in the past, some more of those recommendations that Eleazar and Curtis can turn into a letter, because, you know, it's a substantive, and I think, again, a lot of the work that we've been doing in the last couple of months, obviously with the climate that we're in, we want to be able to still meet that deadline. And so I don't believe that we should be tabling.
Unfortunately,
well, we could also,
if I might, anything.
Jim?
Yeah.
Is this a reference? Because I had
it's parliamentary, which I think was what Catherine was talking about. Anything this board does has to be done by some kind of resolution. It can't, because, for example, a committee sending out something that doesn't actually represent the whole board. Now, the point is, we have these backup mechanisms so that if the resolution doesn't get done by the time of our meeting, Eleazar can just, you know, sign it anyway, and then we will
ratify it
a month later.
Okay. All right. Good point. Liz, Debbie, Ariel. Unmute yourself, Liz.
No, I think Debbie goes before me.
Oh, okay. My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Debbie.
And I think mine is just, I'm going to say it, but I don't necessarily need Curtis to respond. But Curtis, thank you. It sounds like you have been at 4,000 meetings on behalf of this community with NCOs and sector leaders, and it's a lot. Sounds like you've had a long summer, but thank you. The part here that seems just from the quick scan of that it's a substantiated claim and then all this stuff rolls forward. I just am like, do you have any concerns that this leaves open all of a sudden far fewer claims than is already the case getting substantiated? So in a sense, you don't even trigger the whole disciplinary policy. And so if you had any concerns about that, I think that should be sort of recognized in a resolution, because that is the fundamental problem, right, of everything that's of the whole system. It's not like we don't have a system of accountability, but it doesn't work because nothing is substantiated. So that it was just on that topic.
Yeah. So yeah. So these most of the claims I did include 2 facts about the 35th precinct having 55 substantiated and the 33rd, the number whatever it is, being substantiated. And there's been a lot of data that shows that a lot of the substantiated cases, the officers remain on the force after they're substantiated.
Right. I'm sorry. That was my question. Was the before that of like, will we start to see things not being, the whole disciplinary policy as I see it doesn't even go into effect, whatever it may be, until a claim has been substantiated. So I'm just trying to understand, is there an opportunity, let's say this new policy and it was great and it went into effect, but all of a sudden there would be no more substantiated claims. So don't respond here. That's just what I was getting at, and we could talk out loud.
All right, thank you. Liz, Ariel, and then we're gonna end it there before we move on to the last chair report.
So the mechanism that we have is that we could pass a resolution out of this committee, which, having passed it out of this committee, can be sent right away to board members along with the 50-page document or 200-page, however long it is, so that board members have the opportunity to review it prior to Tuesday's meeting. Wayne also did send an email in response to Curtis's email, which attached all of this, which said rather than have all of the whereases, just have a very simple whereas that says, whereas the police were advised to do this top to bottom study and they submitted this report and they've asked for community input for public input by September 30th. Now, therefore, be it resolved, here's our input. And that our input not say we support this plan or we oppose this plan, but we have questions. We have questions about the substantiated whatever, and we have questions about, can you include and invest in some of the things in the resolved in Curtis's second email? Because I think that reasonable people can and do disagree on if this is a good plan or if this is not a good plan. And I think as a board, we may have differences of opinion on different parts that we like or that we don't like. But even if I disagree with, some point in the plan that I think is fine and Ariel thinks is terrible, we can at least agree that there are people that it might be a problem. And so I think that we'll be able to serve the community's interest and respond in a way that is thoughtful without having to get too into the weeds about agreeing this is a good thing, this is a bad thing.
Okay, I think, before we get to Ariel, I think what's critical and one of the most important aspects is the process. I think this is the second or third time in which we incurred into the habit of creating resolutions on the fly without really looking at what it is that we are agreed upon. And some of us may even agree just because of everyone else is agreeing. So I think we should take the opportunity to really look and not, again, fall into the old habit that I've seen happening, recurring, of doing resolutions without the ability to think it through and make a rational decision, whether it's agreeable or not. Ariel.
Hi, all. Trying to add some light here on the tough situation. So first off, I don't want to burden you with the difficult package of reading that I'm going to mention, but please look at the 2019 Charter Revision Commission's work. We had discussed the disciplinary matrix. To echo actually Debbie's concerns of how really having a 53-page matrix comes out, I think it can, yes, very well leave out some of these individual instances that might fall out of that particular written word that comes out in 53 pages to actually respond to, some sort of complaint that might arise, whether it's outside of, excessive force, abuse of authority, I forget all of the FATO words, but yes, it's quite frankly, policy should not be that specific to an individual instance. Policy is supposed to be more uniform in the sense that it can apply to a multitude of different instances that might arise with these interactions with the public. So, I would just say, please look at that document and also perhaps looking over what was one particular public interest group that was concerned about the matrix, Communities United for Police Reform. There are, quite frankly, a few that came throughout our process, and we're talking about this a lot. I'll just leave it there because I don't want to jump into something else that I shouldn't.
Okay, Ariel, unless Curtis, you're going to answer that question or that observation, I'd like to move on to Domingos's report because it's 9:15. Steve, let me allow Curtis to give rebuttal to Ariel comments.
Thank
I'll
you.
wait for Steve and I'll get my final.
So you're going to answer both so I can move on. It's 9:15.
Yep.
Okay, Ellie, I strongly agree with what you said earlier, that we need to make a rational decision on this issue based on having sufficient information and a chance to consider it and absorb these recommendations. I have not seen Curtis's resolution, so I'm not sure what it says. But I feel the position that we should take is that this is too weighty an issue to just throw upon us and ask us to consider within a few weeks, and that it requires more time. And we should pass a resolution calling upon the police department to extend the comment period, give everybody another month, because this is too important to the future of the city and to the way in which we have police community relations for years to come. And this is not something that should be wrapped up in just 30 days. I would like us to take a position that more time is required and that the community should be allowed to consider a 53-page document in more than just 30 days.
Yep. Is that a motion I hear?
Great point.
So yeah, I think Steve, I think you nailed it, and I think that is exactly how I felt, because I think, like I said, it literally just came to me last week, and it is a problem. The time period is a problem. So I'm not sure what the act.
We pass that from the executive committee so that we can just vote on that and have a very short, because that's not terribly controversial. We can say the executive committee.
That's not it, because Isidro asked for the resolution to be tabled. If we're going to get back to that, then we should either second it or move on.
I'm second.
You're seconding Isidro's request to table it?
No,
that's not what we're talking about.
If we don't weigh in by the 30th,
we
don't get to weigh in at all.
Also, my
suggestion that we have a resolution that says, whereas this is really important.
No, the resolution is Steve hasn't seen it. So I want each and every one of this person in this committee, the executive committee, to look at. Wait, let me finish my point, because I'll let you finish yours. As I'm going to agree 100% with Steve and Faye's agreement and my own point that the resolution needs to be thought out and it needs to be in our hands and looked over before it gets passed.
Right. So I am agreeing with Steve. And what I am saying is that we should have a resolution that says, whereas this is really important and we need more than the short amount of time that the NYPD gave us, we respectfully request that the comment period be extended to more than September 30th. And that way, Curtis can have a conversation about this in his October committee meeting and can pass a resolution from the October Public Safety Committee meeting, which we then as a board can consider in the normal way.
Okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying. So before we
Yo,
continue.
how about we let Curtis speak though, man? It's his
Yeah.
resolution. Let him rebut.
No, well,
So, yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
This was exactly my concern. I think that yes, I can't even apologize because it's not my fault that it came out so late. We didn't get it until last week. But I do feel like it does deserve a lot of time. And although I tried my best to dissect everything, and yes, Ariel, I have read the charter revision from 2019. So I'm very well versed on some of the issues, also some of the issues that people have been advocating for and against. The people have been advocating, the PBA has advocated against it as well. So it's quite controversial of a document, and it does require, I try my best to just pick out some of the main substance of the document, but I do think that having more people review it and more public input would be helpful, not only to the committee, but the community overall. So I am in support of requesting in passing a resolution to request more time for us to review it so we can come back to my committee in October and pass as a resolution in October.
Second.
All right, seconded. So I'm moving forward. Thank you. So, we're gonna end it. Huh?
Are you going to vote on it?
Right.
You have a motion that was second. You need to vote on it.
All right, take the tally.
Okay. All right, Eli, you're first on the list. I'm doing a roll call.
Yeah, I'm usually last, but
Okay, all right, Catherine.
Yes.
Isidro,
Yes.
Gerard. I'll go back to Gerard. I can't hear him. Liz?
Yes.
OC, yes. Mary? Mary Anderson?
Yes.
Wayne?
Yes.
Domingo?
Yes, and call me and Curtis to help out with it.
Faye?
Thank you, man.
Yes.
Ariel?
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
Steve?
I think I'll vote yes.
Chris? I'm sorry, Curtis?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Jonathan? Jonathan? He was there.
I think his internet might be having issues with his phone for myself.
All right, so I'm going back to Gerard. Okay, Eli, you're the last.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Curtis. We have a
So,
decision.
yeah, so just a matter of procedure.
14
You know.
votes yes, and I have 2 that either left the call or can't hear us right now.
I don't see Gerard logged in anymore.
Gerard left. So it's unanimous with 14 votes.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And just one question for the parliamentarian and just for the chair. In the event that they say, no, we don't give you more time, then I guess that would mean that the chair and I would have to work together on submitting comment, right?
Precisely.
Right.
Wait,
And I would bet that they're not going to. Well, no, I think no. That's the point is we're just asking for more time, and therefore that's why we're not answering now.
All right. Plan B then, Curtis. We'll have a plan B.
Correct?
Yes.
Well, our answer is to ask for more time.
Exactly, but
we
there's
should-
no
we should-
other substance to it, right?
All right.
We
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 need
should
more
send-
time. End of
We should send our
discussion.
resolution to the elected officials and to all 59 community boards.
Demanding more time, absolutely.
Get it.
Can
Domingo.
the minutes note that Gerard left the meeting at 9?
Okay. And
Yeah,
Jonathan,
so-
we don't know when Jonathan left. Okay.
Jonathan's not a voting member.
He
of the
is.
committee.
Yes.
Can you please, Ebenezer, promote him to a panelist?
No, he's not. He's not a committee chair and he's not an officer.
I thought he was IT, the committee.
He
Yes,
is
but that's a task force and the task force, I don't think the task forces vote.
You think or you know? Which one is?
He's the
If you
chair.
think, then he'll vote. If you don't know, then he'll vote. So we can go based on whether what people think
How have we consistently dealt with task force in the past?
already then.
They
So,
vote.
Domingo, please.
Oh, they,
Yes.
Please, thank you.
they vote, but they don't count for quorum?
Domingo,
All
would you
right, so
please?
do I present? All right.
Yeah, please, make a
So,
presentation.
The only people who vote on the
Jim,
executive
we
committee.
can always get back to that.
Yeah.
Domingo, yes, thank you.
yeah, so basically, it was, as you could see, there's a lot of conversation around small businesses, the impact, and what's next. So our committee meeting basically hones in, focuses a lot on listening to the folks who are directly impacted. So what we try to do is prioritize business owners to try to figure out their situations, what they're experiencing, and some sort of advice and input so that we could be able to provide a better service or advocate more effectively on their behalf. So this month we only had, I believe, two to three businesses, and there was some concerns around fund allocations, businesses being harassed by individuals and via social media. What I'm trying to educate myself more on is the new initiative that the city offers as a way of being able to do some conflict resolution when two parties have certain issues. In this case, I would assume the individual who is constantly harassing the business owner is from the community, but from my understanding, the business owner said this individual was from Queens. And then, so let me break down the situation. There was a situation happening in Mama Sushi where we had the owner, Susana Osorio, present on basically, she reached out and wanted to present on the impact COVID has had on small businesses, but also what's going on within the small business community, particularly in Dyckman. So she started presenting about how there was certain harassment, how certain individuals were using social media as a way of targeting her and putting out false claims. So for instance, there was a situation around the fire escape and the fire escape being blocked by some sort of ornament that she had. Well, this, according to her, the city inspectors actually approved the ornament and it was in compliance with city regulations, but yet certain individuals still kept targeting her around the ornament. And then on social media, they kept just bringing up all sorts of allegations and just basically always tagging her business and associating her business with any incident that would occur within the vicinity, even though they were closed for an hour plus. So that was one of the situations. We had another business owner who was talking to us about the grant that was given from the hospital and managed by, they were managed by, I think it's Hispanic Federation, if I'm not mistaken, in this city.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they raised some concerns, and I also thank Isidro for making the connection. They raised some concerns around what was the framework and what led, like, what was it that helped these individuals who were auditing these forms identify what individuals needed the resources. And they were concerned because there's certain rumors going around certain distributions that went down that might necessarily raise certain concerns. And how they want to. Elisel, what's up? Oh, sorry. So they raised some concerns around that. Basically, they just want to know how were the individuals selected, and what was the process to be selected, being that there were in a lot of various businesses. I haven't had the time yet because of school opening to reach out to the hospital to figure out the process and identify the individuals who received the funding. But that was one concern. And then after that meeting, somebody who was watching it reached out to me. They own a salon. They said they got approved and they never received the money. So there seems to be a lot of a lot of stuff to look into when it came to that grant. So yeah, that's about it. And then just making sure that we were going to have a town hall around, we were working with several business owners to have a town hall around indoor dining, but being that the SBS, I believe it is, or SBA, whatever it is, put out they put out I forgot the language for it, but they put out the regulations for indoor dining. One of the pluses that I've gotten from business owners is that the percentage employees don't make up the percentage of people allowed within the venue. So that's a plus. But I'm still reviewing a lot of the documents and a lot of the regulations associated with indoor dining. So that's that. And yeah, that's about it.
For a packed report, anyone has anything to add to or ask about Domingo's report before we go into new business and Richard Allman's report on what he'd like to present to us? Going once, going twice, going two times. Mr. Allman, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'll try to be brief. I learned some information in the last couple days that caught me by surprise. Maybe it's something I shouldn't have been surprised by. And it's an issue that the community board, I think, should consider. I'm bringing it directly to the executive committee just because I think there's a particular time sensitivity on it. The background has to do with our Bennett Park on Fort Washington Avenue. I never knew anything about James Gordon Bennett before, who the park is named after. But I saw in the last couple of days that the Fire Department of New York, not historically a great progressive organization, also had a program, an awards program named after James Gordon Bennett. They just renamed the program because of Mr. Bennett's history and connections with the Confederacy. I think we should be the people to call for the renaming of Bennett Park. I think with the issue live, I'd like to see the community board be in a leadership position on this, and that's why I'm bringing it directly to the executive committee.
Shouldn't it go to the Parks Committee? And thanks for that.
That's the reason I presented as I did. That's absolutely the normal procedure. And I think it's a judgment of this group whether we want to, and I would certainly be glad to work with that. I think it's simply a judgment of this group whether we want to move that extra fast to be ahead of the issue. I'm glad to respect wherever the executive committee goes on that.
Excuse me, but it is the chair who decides what committees things go to, not this executive committee.
I think we're saying the same thing in different ways, James.
Yeah, I think unless it's a very time-sensitive issue as the one that Curtis presented.
Liz, please calendar. I'll be glad to work with you.
Yeah, and I'd love to have.
Meets on the second Tuesday of every month at 6:30, and I'll be more than happy to add this to the agenda. Thank you so much for bringing it to my attention, Richard. I really appreciate it.
So as I was just saying, Richard, I think it's a perfect to go through the protocol of just having it go.
That's fine. It came up in a recent New York Times article that caught my attention.
All right. Thank you so much. And I read it. Very interesting article. Very revealing as to how sometimes history needs to be revisited because it's not always right. So thank you, Richard. Great article, and thank you for pointing that out. Unless anyone else has anything that is critical to say, I am going to call this meeting to its very end.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay,
Enjoy your night.
good. All right, amen. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
I don't know, what is that?